Welcome to another episode of the Prep Coach podcast. MG, you have some toys. This is cool. This is like a Stretch Armstrong.
Yeah, who remember Stretch Armstrong?
Yeah, Stretch Armstrong.
If you just like,
What the hell's it doing?
listen, just good vibes only. Yeah, it says good vibes only. So, just today, obviously, this is Michelangelo.
Yeah,
I'm also Michelangelo. So, just so that I know who you're talking to,
okay.
just maybe that could
Well,
be.
I know he's only got fixed responses, so
All right. So, good vibes only. See if you can find a question that allows him to answer. He also says cowabunga. He's one
okay.
of those ones.
And then what have you got in your hands?
This is how I practice for emceeing during the week. Is I hold this and I
That's
wield a microphone like a
sword.
This is how you know you're a girl dad. You got a pink sword.
Yeah.
Side note: this morning,
Mhm.
Talia had her first ballet class.
Oh God.
Yeah,
Tutu and everything.
I'll show you guys a photo. I think I'm more excited for 2-year-old ballet. But
Does she look super cute?
yeah, she's gorgeous. Pink little tutu, and it's obviously quite basic. You know, they tap the toes and they wave a wand around, and they practice flaring the arms, but they're really strict. It's like they're not allowed to run around. If they don't pay attention, it's okay, but they're not allowed to run around or touch anything.
Oh, wow.
They're not allowed to touch a glass.
Wow.
So it's like, I think it's a good discipline. At 2 and 3 months, she participated in pretty much everything.
Oh, cool.
But I think just like having some baseline rules early it's not a bad thing, because she doesn't listen to them at home.
Yeah.
Is that just what happens? It's just, you know people say, oh, your child's such an age, and then you look at the parent and they're like,
you have no idea.
Right. Yeah. But it's like when they're out, in a different environment, they know how to behave, and I suppose that's just probably a sign that you're doing a good job. So,
you spoke about practicing on the mic. So on the weekend we had our first show for the season.
It's good to be
How
back.
was it?
It was awesome, man. I feel like there'd been such a gap that some of the interviews I asked like 10 questions, because I was like, I want to know more. Get that family member up on stage. Get that person. That's just a sign that I'd missed it a lot, because it's one of those things. Like, I feel like I become, part of that moment, and I want to know how the people around that person who's just achieved something great feel. I want them to tell everybody else. I want everyone to get that feeling that I've got. So maybe I'll cut them a little bit shorter.
Do you want to read this? Well, it's not a question, it's a statement that came through.
It says, shout out for the awesome interviewing and effort. As a coach of the winning athlete, it was such a nice experience for us, and you have the gift of sincerity. Just thank you.
That's awesome. There you go.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like, I love seeing other people happy, and more so the people connected to those people, and that's why I often bring somebody in, because it can just make someone's whole day. And often, in this sport, it is very isolated. So you've just achieved something great. There's somebody who's close to you, who's seen you go through it. You can see their emotions. Like, you tell us what you think of that person. It's kind of just one of those magical things on stage. But I definitely interviewed a lot longer on the weekend than I normally would. So
yeah, Scotty and I didn't get a chance to see much of the show because we were on the door most of the day, which is always interesting as well, because you see people come in and the competitors, they're nervous,
and then you see them
when they're coming out and they're all excited and they're happy. They got medals jangling around their neck. Their family members are there taking photos. What did you think?
It was good. I don't think I've ever been pulled away more to just take photos of people. I should have been hired for Charles's job, because everyone's like, "Oh, can you come and take a photo?" I was like, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah.
And apparently, I'm not very. Your wife's told me that my photography skills are very, very bad. Her and Croatia, she's like,
no one can live up.
She's like, "Scotty, that's terrible." She's like, "Jen, you got to teach him." I'm
Yeah.
like, "It's a fucking photo.
It's never going to be good enough."
Yeah, it's never. So, but yeah, it was good. It was just so good to see so many. It wasn't the biggest show, obviously, and compared to, obviously it's winter, so it's still growing. But what was really good to see was how loud they were, despite, like, even when outside you could hear them going crazy.
Yeah.
And even waiting in that little outside area near where the lift is, when one of the people, I don't know who it was, but
I think it was the bikini winner. I think.
but their family were
Yeah,
going
yeah.
crazy, and we were like,
Yeah,
what's going
Carly,
on down there? They were really, really loud.
Mm.
But no, it was good. I think everyone enjoyed it, and yeah, it was pretty smooth sailing, man. And I think a lot of them are going to be heading up to Gold Coast, which is good. So it was good to get a taste of, what the standards are like for show one. We've got Sydney this weekend, so Sydney's always pretty good. And then obviously a week off, and then they get to go to Gold Coast. And the standard you'd think would be pretty good up there because it usually is.
I noticed a lot of people pulling you aside to talk about your new gym because
Mhm.
obviously you did that. Well, we spoke about it last week on the potty, but also I think you did a post or story during the week.
Yeah, I just put up a couple of pics of what it looks like now, the blank shell, and then the images of what the architect and designer sort of put together of what it will look like. So yeah, it was cool to see. Everyone was very excited, wanted to talk about it, but no, it was good.
Yeah, it was awesome. It's fun. It's fun being on the door because you get to obviously meet everyone.
Honestly, I never really get to do it, and even then, I kept getting pulled away.
Yeah.
But just to have the opportunity to hover around that area and talk to people was good.
The only thing about the Melbourne venue is obviously you can't watch the show if you're on the door. The Sydney venue you can,
Yeah.
because the desk is on the inside of the venue, and
Same with Glow.
Same with Glow. Same
Yeah,
with
just
Gold Coast.
inside.
It's on the inside. So maybe have to figure out a way to put a TV there or something so that if you're at the door you can.
There is one just around the corner.
There's one in the cafe
Yeah.
around the corner in the
But you
in
can't
the
see
John-
from where you are. So.
in the Jum Theatre. All right, ready to get into questions or any other updates you want to talk about? No, we're good.
Let's do it.
I'm going to start with this one. I think it came in a week or two ago. It's a pretty heavy one, so let's go through it. Should governing bodies like NBA play a role in regulating coaching standards, or is that an overreach?
Yeah, look, I think if you use our sport specifically, who could do it? Who could make sure that there is a minimum standard?
Well,
You've got coaches who could get together and form a little bit of a collective sort of union, and you've got the federations. So there's not really anyone else who can. I mean, yes, it could be the athletes, but I think it should be the leaders, being the federation and the coaches, who would form that. This is actually something that I put together a little bit of an idea of forming almost like, an athlete's union as such that works directly with federations and is the representative of the athletes that can kind of create a minimum standard when it comes to, competition preparation, where you have to at least be a certain level of accreditation or, maybe units or hours per year where the fundamentals are taught and demonstrated, or you get a governing body, they say you put Scott as an example, and then you've got to demonstrate to Scott, you've got to show Scott a periodized prep timeline that he says, yep, I can say this person's got a pretty good idea about what they're talking about before you're allowed to prep anyone. And then it's like, you've got the Scott tick of approval, and this is a list of all the Scott tick of approval coaches in your state who have demonstrated, not just done a course, but demonstrated, because they've done it themselves, 2 or 3 case studies of real life athletes that have shown to have the right amount of planning, the right considerations when it comes to the sustainability. Even something like looking at somebody's programming and being like, why is that person doing 45 sets a session? Like, but how reasonable is it to think that might be achieved? It would be a hard thing to do, but I think it's up to coaches and federations. But I think the federation needs to be involved. If someone was to create that, and I've put together something that I actually pitched this to Timsy as an idea about 6 months ago. It's like, you should look at doing something like this. Someone's got to drive that. There needs to be someone who's super passionate to drive that. But I think if you go back 3 or 4 years, think about when we started this podcast, it was probably needed a lot more then.
Yeah.
I think because of, not just our podcast, but many podcasts, social media, how much information's being put out there now. There's definitely less and less instances, I'm speaking from personal experience only, where I'm hearing people come to me and give me really terrible protocols that they were on or bad pieces of advice. It's just not as regular as it was. I'm not saying that body shouldn't exist, but I just think that it's coming a long way. And I think if you go fast forward another 4 or 5 years, the next level of coaches are coming through from, our school of coaching. So the standard is going up.
What do you think, Scotty, before I add my comments about the education component? Because it sounds like there's going to be an education and maybe an accreditation component, but also what's the enforcement of it?
Yeah. And what are you trying to protect? That's
Yeah.
I'm speaking from probably a health perspective.
Yeah.
But like, what else are you trying to protect for the athletes?
But what I mean by an enforcement is, and I don't think a federation will do this because they'll lose a lot of money, is can they say only coaches that have gone through this accreditation are allowed to put athletes in our shows?
That's not realistic.
Not realistic.
It will never happen.
No, it's not realistic.
I mean, you look at drug testing alone, different rigorous processes have already affected our business in terms of there are athletes that would have done our shows that didn't do our shows.
Yeah, we spoke this on the weekend, how there's certain athletes that keep avoiding.
We had athletes that registered to do our shows, and then we released that real idea on what Verify is and how it works. And then we had athletes not do our shows, but do other shows.
Also, not show up or ask for their money back either.
Yeah,
no.
And also the amount of exemptions that started coming through was really high.
Which wasn't ever really a thing. And I think I mean, I see them all because they obviously, they come across my desk. But it's like, I think more awareness on that, people giving more consideration to that, which I think is also good because in an era where it's very easy to get access to, peptides are a hot topic, but maybe people who would have otherwise just jumped on that and maybe giving more consideration to, is this okay? And should I, actually be taking this, doing their due diligence? But I don't ever think it would be regulated for a federation to do that, to practice within this scope. So your scope of practice depends on lots of things, your experience, but usually your background. So the Sports Nutrition Association, they're located here in Australia, they're up in Queensland. They have a certificate in sports nutrition, and they have released, I believe it's a comp prep course that they do that says that you are certified. Now, what that means is that you basically have insurance so that if someone was to make a claim, you've got insurance over in the UK, we have the Sports Exercise Nutrition Registry, but that's more in professional sports. So if you want to go and work at Man United or work at Saracens, you've got to be on the register so that you're insured and you have all of those different things. And it encompasses a wider scope, whereas here we have SDA, so Sports Dietitians Association, but unless you're a dietitian over here, so you've got to do your dietetics degree, you've got to do a master's in that, versus it's different over in the UK and in the US, because over there they don't really recognize dietitians as the top level. You've got to have a master's in sport and exercise nutrition because it's more sports related versus dietetics. Dietetics is more generalized. It's a wider scope and it's more around disease, and you're looking through that lens. So I think for me, I think you need to do some form of education, whether it's you do a degree at uni, and that's usually honoured, I think, with SNA, or you can get accreditation through that. But someone could quite easily, all they've gone and done is developed modules and developed course content, and they will have gone and got an insurance provider, an underwriter, to build them an insurance policy. Because ultimately, I know what that entails because I've had to do that for MBA as a Fed. There is no just normal, I want to get an insurance policy for venues. So I had to work with a guy I have. He does all of the insurance for all of my businesses, but we had to build out a policy. We had to find someone, underwriter. This is what we do. This is our scope. This is how it works, because with all of the people dying in the US, normal insurance companies don't want to develop a policy. So knowing that is a process, it takes a lot of work, and it was a lot of work to do that, but just because it takes time doesn't mean it can't be done. So to go back to what you were saying, you could do something like that. You would have to be clear, what is the process? What does the sport involve? What are some of the risks? What would some of the potential claims be if there was malpractice? And then you would need to find an underwriter. Okay, in order for us to do that, we would want to see, and maybe it's a certificate maybe it is a certificate for nutrition, or maybe it's that with a blend of, you've got to do a certification and you would have to present that and then get that registered and certified in order for that specific body to say, yep, you're insured. Because that comp prep course that they offer through SNA, I believe, is supported by, the insurance company escapes, I'm not sure, but they have someone who underwrites that. So if someone has done that and someone says, this person prepped me and I had a bad experience and this happened to me, then obviously you would have insurance for that.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, what's the benefit for a coach going through that process. If a federation was to publicly and promote saying, if you go and get this accreditation
Which
or
they
do
never
this
will.
or this course, or
don't
you
think they do
you
that.
go to this seminar and you do this, they're the coaches that we recommend that you go for if you're going to do comp prep. Like, that might entice coaches to go and do those courses to get those
There actually
accreditations.
used to be one with the IMBA. They used to have a comp prep course, and they
Okay.
used to have on the
They
website.
had everyone listed on the website. I
Okay.
remember. Yeah.
This person is an IMBA certified competition prep specialist, so
Okay,
they
cool.
have done that course.
Yeah, because I know I look at some of the emails that come through MBA, and some of the emails are, hey, I want to get into the sport. Do you have any coaches you recommend? So, if a federation said, yeah, actually we do. All these ones have done these courses that we approve of, and they are at a certain standard that we believe is safe to use in them.
There's no reason. That's through a different lens. If you were going to do that as a fed and you wanted to say that, okay, as a federation, these are the things that we know are important. You don't necessarily have to have insurance or to have that. It's more, it's a course that we recommend practitioners do. So if you're starting out and you want to learn, and maybe it runs once or twice a year, then that's definitely something that you could do, and it would just have to encompass all of the things that a good competition prep coach, would need to have, not just periodization, but understanding, physiology, because
Or maybe the Fed puts their own course together.
that's what I'm saying to you. No, that's what I'm saying. Your federation
Actually has
designs that. It's bespoke to the areas. So as comp prep coaches, we know periodization is important. We know physiology is important. We know that there are certain areas that maybe not everyone values, but we have different. Everyone has their own, lens of how they look at comp prep coaching. But those pillars, if you will, that we would say this is important, this is important, and if you understand these pillars, you're probably going to be more than fine in terms of being able to navigate and take someone, through that.
Yep. I think we've spoken through it, and I think there's
some
ideas we need to discuss.
There will never, ever, ever. I'm happy to go on record. No Fed will ever say that only these coaches are allowed to prep people.
No chance.
Because otherwise, an athlete will just do it, and they'll say that Jim coaches.
Yeah.
Not John.
Yeah. What's the most common timeline mistakes you see? Is it starting too late, starting too early, misjudging where someone actually needs to be? What are some common mistakes? Do you want to start?
Yeah, I think all of those have probably happened to most coaches. I think if I just use myself as an example and I go back to earlier on, probably misjudging, what weight somebody truly needed to be inside out. And I feel like, for the first, half of my career, if I just use like a female athlete, let's just say like a sports or fitness model as an example, I was always I was probably always 4 to 5 kilos short. They looked good, but they weren't, what I would now consider to be, truly conditioned. So if you just use that as an example, 4 kilos probably meant that, for the most part, you're probably 5 to 8 weeks short. So I think the biggest things for me, and, Scotty speaks about it all the time, there's 2 parts of it. One, my preps got longer, but I used the pre-preps to obviously counteract that, because that was probably the biggest thing. That pre-prep was that difference in, the final piece of conditioning, and you're able to do it a lot earlier. So I think for most people, they're doing, they're doing 22 or 24 weeks, and they should be probably doing 28 weeks.
Yep.
And they're not including pre-prep phases where they're, going to take off, let's just say for that same 55 kilo female, 3 kilos, in a 5-week period before prep starts. And I reckon most coaches who aren't doing that and are listening to this now, that'd probably be the biggest thing that they could change to really take their athletes to that next level of conditioning.
Yeah, I think also on that is, as you're going through the prep, recalibrating what the stage weight needs to be. Because sometimes they set it at the start and they just forget, like, cool, the rate of loss, that's where I need to be.
Yeah.
But as progress photos come in and as you start to get a little bit leaner, I always reassess and be like, is this really going to be their stage weight?
Yeah.
Like, it looks like they need to lose more than 5 kilo.
Yeah.
Maybe it needs to be, and then I'll adjust the rate of loss for those things too. So don't just set and forget.
For sure.
Keep refining and recalibrating as you go.
And I think the other thing for me is, in my early days, I wouldn't, and I've said this on earlier episodes years ago, I might plan something, but I would give away the periods of refeeds or diet breaks in fear of not getting the result, because it's a week where weight won't go down, which down the track would then bite me in the ass. Whereas now, I stay true to my plan as long as everything's where it should be,
Mhm.
and I don't give those weeks of maybe a week where the scale doesn't change, but it gives me 5 to 6 weeks of future progression where I don't have any plateaus. In my early days, sometimes I would give those away in fear of 1 week of no result, but it actually would lead to more plateaus for longer
Mhm.
down the track. So
Yeah, I think I've said this before on a potty. One thing that reinforced refeeds for me in preps was that year of COVID, where things just kept getting extended. So you'd refeed someone for a week or two because it's like now the prep's going to be 3-4 weeks longer. So like, all right, let's come up for air. Or when now people bridging, so obviously they do it one season,
Sure.
they bridge, you refeed them up. You really see how positive a refeed can be on someone for their fat loss itself.
Yeah.
So
even like how many peak weeks, the more peak weeks that we've all done, how many times you start to feed someone up and the scale keeps going down, and it's like,
I should have done this earlier.
but again, it's just
Yeah.
you have to have the opportunity to do that over and over and over and over
Yeah, of
again.
course.
So
Any mistakes, timeline mistakes that people make?
No, I think you boys covered everything. Auto regulation is so important. You can have the best plan in the world, but you should be. It's not so much about a scale weight as opposed to it is a look. The look is associated to the scale weight, yes, but at the end of the day, you're chasing a look, and so it happens all the time. You can have someone where you'll think, they're going to land, they're going to need to be at 75, and then you see them, maybe they're 12 weeks out and they're hovering around the 78 mark, and you're like, you know what? I reckon there's probably only of honest fat loss, maybe another 1.5 to 2 kilos. And so you're always probably, when you do it as long as you've been doing it for, you're usually going to be within, usually 1 kilo either side. Sometimes you need to dig a bit more, but sometimes, you don't. But then you're always towing the line of pushing and pulling. So, everything might be going great. You see crazy rate of loss, and then you'll have someone that reports, I'm starting to feel a little bit under the weather. My partner's been sick and I've got a bit of a scratchy throat. Sleep was pretty shit last night. Training didn't go well today. It's like everything's been going so well. Do we just keep digging, or do you say, do you know what? Now's an opportunity to give back, because you might decide to keep digging and then they're sick for 7 to 10 days versus you bring food up for 3 or 4, you freshen them up, they're able to get over that, and then they're able to go hard for another couple of weeks. So, and that's the art of coaching.
Yep.
how many times nowadays versus before you'll get a first timer who's like, oh, roughly what do you think my stage rate will be? Most of the time now, the right response gets a, what? No way I'm going to get that lead. And it's like, no, you will, trust me, because you just, until you've done it enough, you truly don't know what, it takes to get down to that level, and the difference it can make on a scale for someone who's 60 kilos, getting down to say a 49 versus what you would have, what used to be maybe a 53 goal. So
Yeah.
It's usually guys that have a hard time hearing that,
Yeah.
because we, as a gender, associate the heavier I am, the bigger,
Bigger
more
I am,
muscular.
yeah.
No one gives a shit how much you weigh on stage. It's like, oh my god, that guy, he looks huge, and then you ask him, what do you weigh? And he's
73.
yeah, or even 60 odd kilos. They're like, there's no way. It's like,
Yeah.
there you go.
Man,
Who cares? It's an arbitrary number.
that's it. I've used an example of 2 of your athletes once before, showing someone. It might have been to show Chris, like a photo of just Ethan's physique. I was like, what do you think of that guy was? It's like, 80 something. It's like, because he's
like 59
yeah,
kilos.
right. It's exactly
I've
the
got females in
But see how it's a great example. It's like, don't worry about the fucking number.
Yeah.
Like he beat everybody. Nobody cared on the day. The judges wasn't like, all right, split between these two. What's the scale weight? Like,
The question just under this was, do you build in buffers for disruptions, injuries, work stress, family, things blowing the plan? Yeah.
Yeah,
It's hard to know if something's going to disrupt.
You don't say
someone.
this is a buffer week, but
Yeah.
whatever you're allowing for, however you're dieting, usually 10%. So if you're dieting for 20 plus weeks, there's always a couple of weeks of leeway. I think in an era where if you know how to hold someone and bring food back up and let them just, cruise for a little bit, come up for air, I would always rather have more time than have less time.
Yeah, 100%.
You'd rather be ready early than be chasing and limping to the finish line.
Yep. Can you bring back Rate My Physique? Or can I send my current physique and photos so you can give me feedback in relation to NBA standards? We haven't promoted Rate My Physique in a long time. I think we only really done it. We've never done it with you, have we?
yeah, because you were in the UK.
He was
We
away.
did like week after week. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't. And then
Yeah, we
when
can
you
bring-
came back, we never did it.
Maybe we do it every second ep.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We'll whoever asks this, we'll bring it back. We'll do it. Okay. Great show on the weekend. I overheard another Fed is going to be copying your MG and Timsy move for side stage. Is this smart or does it offend you guys?
What?
Also, how are you all going? What's your
As in, like,
copying?
having a
Person-
MC
what
and
are
a
you
side
saying?
stage person.
Yeah, maybe that's what it means.
Like,
Yeah, copying that
to pump.
dynamic.
Yeah,
That's
I
me.
mean, I would say that, not being biased, I'd say that's a great fucking idea.
Of course.
Honestly, like, this, I'm assuming that's what they're saying.
I think that's how it reads. Like that's how it reads, right?
Who's doing it? And then just
Great show on the weekend. I overheard another Fed is going to be copying your MJ/Timsy move for side stage. Is this smart and does it offend you guys? Also, he goes, yeah, like to have high energy right before they walk out, have someone like a Timsy give them this big
Pump up.
speech.
Yeah.
So
Where was that? Is that on social? Who's done that?
it's a
That's a
No, but
question.
I'm saying, what Fed's done that?
I don't know. It says I overheard a Fed.
is going to.
He's
So,
going to do
so maybe yeah, they're going to have a side stage person and a MC.
But maybe it's an expediter. I know IFB have an expediter
For
on
sure.
stage, and that's what Timsy is.
I'm guessing this is
But,
like.
no, but I don't think any other Fed. Does any other Fed have an expediter on stage?
I don't think so.
I don't think
But
so.
I think this is like, is it more like the relationship energy?
Oh, the relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say they're wise for doing that. I think it makes a huge difference. It's not even the me bit; it's the him bit. And I'll tell you why. There was bikini was going out. It was there was the first season girls. We'd just come back from the break, so it would have been the first season girls, and they're all on the back wall, and hopefully one of them's listening to this, and they were nervous as hell. And Timsy gave them the Scotty speech, like,
Oh, did he?
there's other categories here today, but you know what? Everyone's here to fucking watch you girls go. Like, no, he did. He pumped them up so good. Like, went and gave them all double fist pumps. Man, I promise you, their whole body language changed in an instant.
Oh, yeah.
So, if another Fed saw that and they're going to do that, I would say that that's a smart decision on their end.
Good luck because no one's like Timsy.
And that's the thing. Literally going to be my next. Now, my next comment is this: is like the way that we are with each other and the energy that we give. That's not just we love what we do, but we're also close friends. So you're going to have to recreate that relationship, which is going to be very, very, very hard to do.
Very difficult. Yeah.
And are they going to put tape on their shoes? Are they going to put green highlighter tape on their shoes?
Probably not.
So, but no, I wouldn't be offended.
Here you go. Scotty is a different one. Baking soda. Is it actually all what it's cracked up to be? And if so, how much do you use of it and how often? Baking soda.
I've never used baking soda in my entire life.
This is I think it's to blunt the what's that? It's the feeling whenever you've got like a pump and you can't go on. You can't. Is that what it's to blunt the?
What are you talking about?
With the use baking soda. People put baking soda in there. Was it bicarb soda?
No, because that's the fizzy one.
In your workout drink, and it's supposed to like push you past your normal failure point because it blunts the technical language of when you can't contract the muscle anymore because it builds up with
when the muscle can't contract, when there's a build up or there's a lack of calcium. You're saying psychoendoplasmic reticulum.
Yeah, so it
doesn't
kind of
release calcium.
It blunts that.
Okay.
Never heard that before?
No.
Must be a bro thing back on bodybuilding.com forum.
I thought you're saying I am consuming baking. Man, I've never had.
I don't even. It's used during intense bodybuilding works to buffer acidosis.
Yeah.
Muscles produce hydrogen ions and lactate, and then that drops pH, causing fatigue. Sodium bicarbonate raises blood.
So
which helps buffer the acid buildup, so muscles can keep contracting for longer.
You get a build up of hydrogen ions, and so it becomes very, very acidic. And as a result of that, there's a change in pH level. But I didn't know that was a thing for bodybuilders.
This would also say,
and
not well documented.
No, I was going to say
practical downsides.
I haven't read anything in research terms around that. So, and if it was, I would have thought it would be used in cycling and sports where you would typically get a really big build up
of lactic acid
in sprinting. Yeah, that change in pH level, which results in that, like I said, that increase in acidosis. So honestly, I don't remember reading anything, and I didn't know that was a thing for bodybuilders.
Man, I remember reading this like 15 years ago.
Wow.
on like a body.
Maybe that is an old school body. Maybe
think it
kind of
might
like how you take vodka.
It could be re-emerging.
I think the breakdown of all of the meta-analysis is like trivial.
Yeah, okay. That's why Scotty's never heard of it.
I haven't read anything on it, so
Yeah.
It's also like
maybe there is something
it's
on
also
it.
super high risk for GI distress. So
Oh,
it's
I could
like
imagine.
you would use it with food, but who's going to have an intra workout with a meal?
Yeah, no. Yeah.
So
Do you prescribe faster cardio, and if so, what's the benefits?
I do, yeah.
Yep. And if so, what's the benefits?
Well, from a training adaptation perspective, utilizing lower carbohydrate, you get an increase in specific proteins that can yield mitochondrial biogenesis, so it makes athletes fitter. But when you consume carbohydrate, you obviously get a secretion of insulin. The insulin blunts lipolysis.
Yeah.
And lipolysis is the process of breaking down and oxidizing free fatty acids. But for me, if I have someone doing cardio and they're dieting, giving them carbohydrate to facilitate or fund that is taking it away from an area where it could better be used, i.e. let's say that you've got someone who's concurrently training, does cardio early in the morning, they would usually do it fasted, and then they will do weights maybe in the afternoon or in the evening, then I would allot that carbohydrate closer to that training window so that that can be used to fund their training.
If they had an abundance of carbohydrate,
You can. I wouldn't. If you're well, then you're not really dieting. If you can,
No, you're just
utilizing cardio.
Yeah.
But
so would you just
even
do
still, yeah. So I have high rocks athletes, and I have an athlete who's doing the half marathon on Sunday, and so a big part of her running, and her baseline intakes are probably 2,000 ish calories, 2,100. She's had a bigger week the last couple of weeks, so she's had a bit more. But when we have her long runs, which are usually on a Saturday or a Sunday, for example. They're usually in the range of 16 to 18, or they've been building up, but she had a 16 or an 18K, and we would run low. Again, we keep her heart rate ideally at steady. She's running, sub 6K pace, and as a result of that, she's using lipid. She's training her body to use lipid. So her respiratory exchange ratio, which basically just means the substrate that she's using, would be, below a 0.8. If it's above, closer to 1 or 1.1, it would be carbohydrate. And so we know that we're using lipids, so we're not using carbohydrate. But what happens is when we're doing that, we're not introducing carbohydrate, we get an increase in these two ceiling proteins, AMPK and P38 MAPK, and they converge on this master protein, PGC1 alpha. You guys might have heard me talk about it before.
Yep.
And that is really important because it can translocate to the nucleus and the mitochondria to cause mitochondrial biogenesis and basically cause gene expression, which means adaptation, right? And
so is that why you said it makes you fitter?
Yeah. So, again, if you strip it back further, everyone talks about calories when we're training or moving around. That requires energy. So rather than thinking of energy as in calories, energy is produced from ATP. So ATP is the energy currency of a cell, and you produce ATP from the mitochondria. So if you have bigger mitochondria or you have more of them, you can produce more energy. Therefore, you can train harder for longer.
Yeah, man, and like literally training the body to get efficient at using lipid as energy when carbohydrates aren't around.
Well, for context,
it's crazy, man. It's good.
I don't think Ella listens to the podcast, but maybe I reckon 4 or 5 months ago when we started, she couldn't run 3Ks without stopping in terms of and she's like, I really want to do a half marathon. And now our goal is to run a half marathon in sub 2 hours this weekend. So she did a 18K run and she ran that.
And you said she's on around 2,000.
Yeah, well, but again, we had been drop pulling her body weight down as a means of trying to get her to run. She's lost 30 kilos from when she first walked in here. Her and her husband, he was like,
what time frame would that? Or say from this goal.
They came into our gym. I think it was we started when we ran 8-week challenges. They've been part members for 8 years, but she's gone from, I reckon she was probably hovering in the high 70s. She's now around 70 kilos, but she does high rocks now. She's actually going to do a partner high rocks with Mads later in the year.
She's so cool.
She's a weapon, but one of the reasons her times have gotten so much better is because she can run now. So most athletes struggle with high rocks and the running component, but she's an absolute weapon. So she goes for a cruisy run. It's 10, 12 Ks versus, like I said, 5 months ago, she couldn't do a 3K run without stopping. And now a light run is going for 5Ks is just ticking the legs over.
Yeah. The reason I was interested is
and we use that specific nutrition intervention in order to chase and facilitate adaptation. And this is the thing that most people don't realize. When you're looking at performance, I think and when you truly understand exercise metabolism and physiology, the nutrient status of the muscle before, during, and after exercise will ultimately determine the adaptation that's going to take place, or rather the cellular signaling response that then results in adaptation and causes gene expression. So you have the ability to manipulate the way that your body is tolerating and allowing for that particular stimulus, and your body is designed to acclimate to that, and then as a result of that, it becomes more efficient, and in this case it builds more mitochondria. And so again, when you then put it back in, so we had her last run on the Saturday, I think it was, and she had I think an 18K, and we usually run low, recover low, because again, a lot of research shows that these proteins are upregulated with lower carbohydrate, so we run low. And then, so she would run fasted, and then she would recover her next 2 meals with lower carbohydrates, under 20 grams. And then we backload her carbohydrates into the day. So she's still consuming the same amount, but we're chasing this cellular signaling response. And I use the dimming switch and light bulb moment. These proteins, the lights are as bright as possible. And then as soon as we introduce carbohydrate, the lights are on, but they're a lot dimmer. And so that signaling response, it diminishes. And when she ran high, recover low, she's like, I don't know how to explain it other than just, I felt like I just didn't get tired. I could just run and run and run, because she's so acclimated to running on lipid, running low.
Yeah.
And when we reintroduce it, and we did some gut tolerance testing gels, and she's like, it felt incredible. So with her plan, we have strategic periods within the race where she'll have these gels the beta gels that will give, I use them for my athletes in carb ups too, but we'll use them to elevate blood glucose levels, allow her to keep pushing. We'll also we'll load her the 2 days before so that she's topped up from a glycogen saturation perspective. So her body will run through the energy she has, and then it will utilize all of the stored carbohydrate, and then we'll use the gels. But if we run out of all of that, she's so used to running on lipid, her body's like, all right, cool, now I'm just moving over to this.
Yeah, awesome. That's cool.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, how does she feel when you actually run with
So that's
carbohydrates?
exactly what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
On the end of my set, like,
you answered that question.
What happens when you actually fill her up and she just goes?
She's awesome, man.
That's awesome. That's great. That's really, really good.
Okay. Best tips for back-to-back peak weeks. Do you want to?
I think we answered this one already.
Did we really?
Yeah, I think we did on.
Oh, did I really?
Last
I
week.
thought it was a new one.
Answered this like,
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
but I think we did it last week.
lots of times. Oh, did we do it last week?
Maybe.
All the week before. I reckon that one's at the top.
Advice for staying on track when you have months between shows. So
Yeah.
I'd say that would either be
Like a B2C.
a B2C, or you're doing the very, very first show in the season and then the very, very last show.
Yeah.
Normally that's probably about a month.
Yeah, I think for me, if I think about it, putting my coach's hat on, like I've got people that just did B and are doing C, as in fact someone that's going to go all the way to Bali, right? So it is a big gap.
It's a big gap.
But that whole period, 13 weeks, has been completely time on. Every single week, what we're doing, whether we're digging, whether it's a break, what the training focus is, what the rate of gain, rate of loss. So I think as an athlete, if you've got full accountability, even if it's a long period of time, it's so much easier to stay dialed in. The second part of that is if you've just done a show, you now have the opportunity to take the time to be so much better the next time that comes around, which for most people might be 18 months, 2 years. If you're bridging, it means that you've got, let's just say, somewhere between 6 and 14 weeks to improve. That should fuel the fuck out of you from a willingness to do whatever and leave no stone unturned to bring a better package. You've now got feedback. You now know how your body responds. You've kind of tested everything. So I would say those two things is like, use what happened in the first show to improve on and to fuel you, but also make sure you and your coach have a really detailed plan, because it's so easy to stay here and when you know exactly what you're supposed to do, daily almost, but weekly goals are important too. So if you've got nothing between the two shows, that's the first thing I'd be asking for. Is like, can you tell me what this next 3 months is going to look like from an accountability perspective, so that it's much easier for you to stay on track. But if you love it, and sounds like if you're doing 2 seasons, you do, the big gap shouldn't really make a difference to your adherence.
Yeah. I think the two main things you covered was having a plan,
For sure.
but also knowing what you need to work on.
Yeah.
Should motivate you. How about you, Scotty?
Yeah, I think we covered it.
Yep. What's your obsession with the V squat? I think it's for you.
Yeah, someone asked me this on my personal one. Man, for me, and I think I've even spoken about this on an episode, but if you think about my knee history, my back history, just with the reason I'm looking, it's right behind
There's
the
a
camera
visual
right
there,
here.
yeah.
It's just where the load is. So if you think about if you face the machine, the load being in front of you, and actually if you look at my V squat, it's the loading plate pin is actually slightly lower than that, so
Okay.
it's almost at waist height.
Mhm.
So yes, the pads still sit on your shoulders, but from an axial loading perspective, there's fuck all. The plate position's perfect for me. I can get deep in a squat without getting any, lower bum tuck. And the loading potential is just greater for me. The systemic fatigue after I get off it is so much less.
Mhm.
And I also use it for good mornings, which are my two big patterns, which, we did in Bali a lot. And I can just progress it every single week. The tough reps on a hack squat versus that last rep on this, mentally, I just feel a lot safer and I'm willing to push it. The cadence on my last rep is so much slower on a V squat than it is on a hack because I'm just willing to go there from a safety perspective. And I feel like I'm getting the best results from a growth perspective on my lower half that I've gotten really in my lifting career. So
Mhm.
I'm just going to keep running it.
What do you like about? I'm guessing. What do you like about the V squat maybe over a normal hack squat? If you do like the V squat over a hack squat,
I use the hack squat over that. I've gone through
yeah.
periods where, I've gone from I was safety bar squatting for a bit, and then I was like, nah, just the systemic fatigue from heavy back squats. But for me, I prefer the hack squat because I have to load that up a lot more to
Okay.
get the load that I need versus
Yes.
I can stick 5 plates on that. If I stick 5 plates on that, yeah, it's heavy, but relative to a 5 plate hack squat either side is very, very different. So,
Yeah.
and yeah, for me, I think as well, thinking about, are you looking to get more quad bias so you
Mhm.
can get greater dorsiflexion on that? I don't not like that, but it's probably more, if I'm honest, it's a pain in the like if I was doing a good morning on that, love it, great stimulus, but you just got to load it so much to be able to get one of it. So rather than do that, I would rather do a really heavy RDL or an SLDL because you don't have to load it. You don't have to stick whatever it is on that and usually it'll max out because, as you know, you can stick
Yeah.
a few hundred kilos on a B squat a good morning and it's not the same as if you do that on a barbell. It's very, very
Oh,
different.
yeah.
What,
Do
what,
you
what,
think
But I love that
some,
versatility, isn't it? The reason we have it here is there's lots of people who, you touch on it, there's that element of I feel safer on it, it's comfortable.
Yeah.
And I don't like squatting out that way. If I was going to do it, I'd do it as a front squat facing toward it.
yes.
which is what I do.
Yep.
Do you think some of my injury history plays a big part in why
Your psychology, yeah, of course.
why I opt for it, obviously with 5 knee ops in the back?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that my brain says, hey, you can still push heavy, but you feel a lot safer, and that allows me to progress further? So it's maybe a little bit in my head, but there is a limiting factor to the hack because of my injury history, whereas that it just kind of removes
Sure.
that.
I would say that you'd also probably enjoy. I love a pendulum because I prefer
For sure.
pendulum even better because you need even less load,
Yeah.
and that's even more humbling.
Mhm.
And that's phenomenal on the knees because you don't need to really
sure.
have any crazy
For
dorsiflexion because you can just sit so deep in it.
sure.
But obviously, you only have a finite amount of space. But the pendulum that we have, we got a Watson pendulum coming in elite.
Oh, yeah.
It is incredible.
Yep. Can imagine. Just on the V squat, I think that the way the load transfers down your spine,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more neutral,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
Whereas on a hack, depending on how you sit and where you're positioned,
And also depends on the angle of the hack.
angle of the hack, you can get to a point where it is trying to push you out of position,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to hold yourself there.
Yep.
So it's like whether the bum wants to tuck under or something. So I just feel like the way the V squat is angled, and as you descend down, it's almost like the load is translating directly down your spine, and it's not anywhere actually.
Mm-hmm.
If that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
And also too is I think that's the reason why the pendulum works well as also, because you're in basically a fixed position and the load just transfers through your shoulders and through your body cleaner. I don't know how to put it in ways that's not super technical that people can understand, but it's like it almost translates through you a lot cleaner, a lot easier, where it doesn't force your spine to kind of extend or flex.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like if I had a back injury and I had to pick between the three, I'd probably go on the pendulum.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and then
would
the
too.
second
But
one
also
would be the
you're
V. And
you could go on the pendulum, not even load it, and still get a crazy
Yeah.
stimulus. You could do 1.25 reps and just not load
Of
it.
course.
And, you know, spending all that time in that stretch position would be sufficient for sure.
Yeah, the other part to that is because I don't have a pendulum, you might probably be asking why am I obsessed with a pendulum. If I had a pendulum, I'd
you'd
for sure be going for
Yeah,
that
on the pendulum,
for the
yeah.
pendulum as well.
And
And if you had a belt squat, you're probably using the belt squat.
I'd
Yeah.
probably be
See, I used that with Normie for the first time in ages yesterday because he had it set up and it was just more convenient. And having run that, again, I forgot how amazing that is, and the ability to get super low, crazy dorsiflexion without having to have any systemic fatigue. It just rips the shit out of your hips when you've got lots of weight on them. So
of course it does. Yeah.
you just stick but that's also again getting used to it again. But at the end of the day, man, they're all tools. It's just you know, whatever works for your anthropometry and also whatever you feel confident. At the end of the day, the exercise that you look for, like if you look forward to a pendulum or a V squat versus you have a programmed hack squat and you fucking hate it, you're always going to perform better on something that you enjoy. Not that you shouldn't do hard things, but if you've got another tool that you can use that's still going to give you the same outcome, do it.
Yeah, and I think if you just look at the good morning as an example, I don't see myself doing a good morning with a free weight or, you know.
But would you'd rather do that as a hip hinge than you wouldn't do a heavy? Do you do RDL?
For sure.
RDL? Okay, you do RDL.
Yeah. But that once a week and an RDL once a week versus RDL twice a week
Yeah,
is for me the nice spot to be.
Yeah.
So
you can throw a hyper extension in there too.
yeah, well, that's twice a week actually.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks everyone for listening, and thank you for the questions. We'll see you in the next one.